Hello friends and fashion lovers, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Esther and I'll be taking you through the steps of how I made this dress. The fabric and the yardage I used for a 4 to 5 year old is displayed on the screen. The texture of your fabric and also your personal preference of how full or less full you want it to be plays a major role, as well as the age of the child you are working with. So do well to adjust this to your own taste and preference. Thank you. A link to this pattern will be in the description box. I'm going to go ahead and adjust my back pattern. So please note that my back block here has a zipper allowance. So the back style that is totally up to you, but I decided to go with a bit of a V back neckline. Next is just cut out and have your new back neck design. So with this, you're pretty much done with the bodice. In order to still have my sleeve block, I went ahead and traced my sleeve pattern. Then I am going to indicate my notches. Yes, this notches has to match with the one you have on your bodice. So indicate it because it's very important. So from the notch, one notch to the other notch, that's a notch from the back to that of the front, or from the front to the back, you are going to be dividing this your sleeve head into different sections. The section is totally up to you to decide how many sections you want. But the more sections you have, the fuller your sleeve would be. Then now that is visible, I'm going to go ahead and number it. It's very easy to mix these things up. It might not be that easy, I'm just saying. So just go ahead, number it for easy assembling. So now I'm going to just slash it up. If you've noticed, the center of my sleeve that has my grain line is still intact, with the indication that this is the center. That will come in handy much later. Now on a fresh pattern paper, I'm just going ahead to mark my grain line, which is my center line at that point, and also to mark the guide. You need a guideline at the bottom to know the placement of your pattern. So with this, it's time for me to just gum it in place. So matching my center point, the center of my sleeve, which had my grain line, to the center line that I just drew. So from there, I am going to be spacing it by 1 inch. So just give it 1 inch spacing in between each slash. So you're spreading it by 1 inch. At least that's what I did. And the numbering just helps your work easier because you know where which piece goes. And I'm doing this for the whole sleeve. So here it is all pasted out. So on the center of my sleeve, I'm going up by 1 inch. And then I'm going to connect the rest of my sleeve curve to that 1 inch. It's best for you to use pencil for this, but I just want it visible. So I'm just using my pen to do this. So then you just keep the side of the sleeve straight instead of it curved. At the down part, I went ahead to add 2 inches. The 2 inches is just to have a little bit excess after I might have hemmed with about ½ inch. It's 2, it won't fray, so you don't need that much to hem. Then I'm also adding 3/4 of an inch at the side. So that's going to be my seaming allowance, and I'm going to be finishing that sleeve with a French seam. Then please don't forget your notch. Your notch is important. Your notches are your friend when you are assembling your garment. So with this, the sleeve pattern is pretty much ready. You see how simple it is? All you do is you slash and spread. So it's just to cut it out at this point. I now use my pattern to cut out my fabric. As for the design tool, I just cut it the way it is. The center front is cut on fold and 2 pieces is for the back. Then for my lining piece, I'm just going to adjust the neckline. So just measure down your desired neckline, and instead of cutting that away, just fold it. Yes, that way you recycle your pattern. Then for the back, just make sure you fold it to the point where you'll be having your zipper. So go ahead and add seaming allowance. I added 1 centimeter seaming allowance. 1 centimeter, just a little seaming allowance was what I added to the top of my pattern. Then I go ahead and cut my lining pieces, and I'm doing this both for my fashion fabric and also for my lining. Of course, I use the same as lining. And don't forget your notches. Notch and set aside. Then I also cut out my sleeve by placing it and pinning it in place, and just cutting it just the way it is. And I'd already added seaming allowance by the side, so it's pretty much ready. So don't forget to notch your sleeve, add notches to it, and notch the center. You need to mark where the center of it is. So for my sleeve, I'm just going to basically gather it up. You want to gather from notch to notch. So mark the center so that you will be able to distribute your gathers properly after. So for the skirts, make sure that you use your exact skirt length. Don't worry, by the time you attached it to your bodice and hem, you would lose some inches. That's for your satin fabric. Just use exact skirt lengths, your exact desired skirt lengths. Don't worry about it. Then you are going to gather that up. Then for the tulle, you would want it to be longer than your normal skirt length. So your desired skirt length plus about ½ inch to 1 inch, because you would be gathering it and attaching it to your bodice. So add extra 1 inch to that. So I am just going to go ahead and gather my tulle and satin. So this is what it looks like after I gathered it. So I'm just going to set this aside for use much later. So now to my bodice. See, I'm going to keep this pattern for the next tutorial, so watch out for the next one. So for my bodice, this is it. I'm placing right side facing the back and the front. I'm going to go ahead and stitch it up at the shoulder, just the shoulder there. Then my lining piece, the front is cut on fold, both for the fashion fabric and for the lining. So I'm just going to place it right side facing, and I'm going to stitch along. Remember that I used 1 centimeter seaming allowance. If you used ½ inch, don't worry, I'll tell you what to do next. Then for the neckline, you could use tulle as a bias to finish the neckline, or you could as well line this. I use tulle as a bias to finish my own neckline for this garment. So here I've done the stitching, and I've also finished off the neckline, so I'll set that aside. So here, if you had used ½ inch, you would need to cut it down a bit, just a little bit. Go ahead and understitch that. So here I've done the understitching. So moving on, I am going to refer back to my design tool, which is the illusion path. So I'm going to place it like so. You want to place it how you want it to appear. then go ahead and tack that down. You want to tack this down so that you treat it as one piece. So after tacking it down, I just decided to add a little bit of plain detail to the front. So now it's time to attach my sleeve to my bodice. So assuming you had indicated where your side notches are and also the center part, now matching your center point to the center of the shoulder, you are going to also match the notch to the notch part of your bodice. Then for the rest, you are going to be distributing that gathers you had made evenly on each side. The center to the center, the side notch to the side notch, and just the rest of the gathering, just distribute it evenly. You can see why it was important to note the center point. After pinning it down, go ahead and stitch it in place. So that's what I did. I stitched it. After stitching the sleeve on the bodice, go ahead and close the side of your bodice by placing right side facing, lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric. And the sleeve, I decided to use a French seam for my sleeve because I didn't want the raw edge to be visible. So after stitching the side, this is what I ended up with. It's actually very neat on the inside and also on the outside. It's time for me to invite my skirt pieces. You remember that I had gathered my tulle initially, so I'm having right side facing. I have pinned in place the tulle and also the lining. Yes, this is what it looks like after. So after joining the skirt and the bodice, it's zipper time. So I like to always pin my zipper because I want to know how it fits, and if there is any need to adjust the length, I can do that. So all I'll do is just pin it to the fashion fabric and stitch in place. After stitching, next is to pin the other side. You want to be sure that they match absolutely right. Now after stitching and you are sure that it zips properly, open it up, bring up your lining. You want to place your lining on top of the zipper. So you want to have the right side of your lining facing the right side of your fashion fabric. Just around the zipper place, you're just going to go ahead and pin that and stitch in place if you want to have a neat finish on the inside. So after the zipper installation, the dress is almost ready, almost. So it's time to work on the sleeve. Work on your sleeve by folding it over to make a casing for your elastic. You want to make sure that your fold over is enough to case your elastic. Your elastic should be able to pass through the fold over freely. You could use 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch elastic. After casing my elastic, this is how my sleeve looks like. Beautiful, right? Okay, I've already added a snap button here, both on my bow and also at the back of my dress. So I'm just going to snap on this bow on my dress. So after this, I like to go in with my thread and needle and hand stitch my lining and my tulle in place. It's just the final step I like to do because I want everything to stay nicely. And there you have it, your dress is ready. This is how I made this dress. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.